All the exotic animals they got called. Okay. Okay. Okay, our broadcast is live. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Sturgis City Council tonight, Monday, August 18th. Please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bill, would you offer a prayer for us tonight, please?
Let us pray. Father, we are so thankful for the abundant moisture that you've granted us this summer. We just thank you for it and for the beautiful scenery of the Black Hills. Now, Father, we ask that your wisdom be with us tonight as the decisions are made and the council goes forward with the things that are before them. And we pray for the peace and prosperity of this city. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. We've got a couple of additions that we need to add for letters of support. Is somebody willing to make that motion?
Need a motion to make an amendment to the mayor's report to add some letters of support at the end.
Alex, do you have your mic on?
Oh, yes, I wasn't talking into it. I
Okay,
apologize.
thank you.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a first to amend the agenda with 2 letters of support in the mayor's report section. There's been a first and a second. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. We have the agenda approved. Item 5 is non-agenda matters.
4. You should.
Oh, 4 announcements and praise. Let me put the glasses on. Sorry, guys. Jim, do you have a list for us tonight?
Thanks to Deb. I do. Thank you, Deb, for keeping track of all of these things for me. Here's some of the happenings that are coming up. Sturgis Williams School Middle School open house at 3 o'clock tomorrow, 3 to 5, Sturgis Williams School. Also tomorrow, 19th, the Sturgis Brown High School has an open house from 5 until 7. Wednesday is Music on Main at the Harley-Davidson Rally Point at 6 o'clock. Also on the 20th, the Sturgis Public Library Summer Reading Wrap-Up Party, and that'll be held at Woodland Park Shelter on Sly Street. That's on Wednesday. Sabres Insurance will be having their school supply drive-through on Wednesday from 7 until 8:30 a.m. You can look for them in front of their office on Junction Avenue. That's on Wednesday from 7 until 8:30 in the morning. Thursday the 21st, Sturgis Elementary School open house from 2 to 4. And then this coming Sunday, the 23rd and 24th, actually Saturday and Sunday, the Old Fort Meade Museum will be hosting a living history event titled Life at Camp Rulin, 1878. That'll be Saturday from 9 to 5 and Sunday from 9 until noon. The event will take place on the parade ground at Fort Meade, across the street from the Old Fort Meade Museum. That's this Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 5 on Saturday. And then a week from today, the 25th, the first day of school for students in the Meade School District. And on Tuesday, the 26th, through the 31st, the 19th annual Sturgis Mustang Rally. So those are the happenings that I have a note of.
Thank you, Jim. I guess I'd like to offer that this coming Wednesday we have an extension of Cool Deadwood Nights. We're expecting, I think, 250 hot rods on Main Street. So can somebody help me with the time? Is that like 2 to 4 p.m.? 11. So we do have a street closure associated with that, and so Public Works will be closing the street early in advance of that. So it'll be closed throughout the day on Wednesday until the event is done at 2 p.m. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. 250 hot rods. Kind of neat that an event in Deadwood spilling over into our community as well. Anybody have anything else to add? How about members of the public? Oh, Rick, you got to.
Mayor, I'd just like to once again talk about the DOT project that is going to start tomorrow. There's going to be full lane closures of the driving lane, both eastbound and westbound on Lozelle from Williams all the way down to Nellie. So about 30 days that project is anticipated to last. So we're going to be losing 2 driving lanes while that work is being done. I know that school's starting. We've got a couple of events just to make the public aware that that is happening.
Yeah, thank you, Rick.
And that is a DOT project.
South Dakota DOT on Lozelle Street for the majority of the street through Sturgis. The outside lanes will be closed. I think we'll be okay, but it might cause some traffic congestion at the intersection of Lozelle and Junction because we don't have the right-on red capability and those sorts of things that are going on during that time. So, anybody else have anything to add for announcements and praise? Members of the public? All right, we'll continue on to item 5, non-agenda matters that may come before the council. Does anybody have an item that is not currently on the agenda that they'd like to address the council over? Please state your name.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. My name is Daniel Granillo, and longtime listener, first-time speaker. I was recently approached last week. Well, I host campsites temporarily for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and it has greatly reduced my cost of my mortgage. And this past week, I was recently informed by our great new code enforcer I can no longer do that because of Title 11, Chapter 8. And I got on the agenda for the next City Council meeting, but I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention just to, I guess, see if this is something that's everyone can do in the city, or if it's limited to those property owners that have been here since 2012 and have done it continuously. I haven't had any issues in the past several years hosting campsites until just now I've been told I can no longer host any campsites during the rally.
So you're talking that our code enforcement officer notified you about Title 11 and the maximum number of campers, if you will? No? Aaron, maybe you can.
Yeah, let me shed some light. I talked with Daniel on the phone the other day after I received your request to be on the agenda, and went back and did some research on what the code violation was, and I've been working this with Chief Vanderwater. Unfortunately, our code has some confusing language on, and absolutely can see where our new code officer, when he's going through and looking at where he thought that that property was in violation, but other parts of the code doesn't seem to show that kind of language. We had this conversation, I think, a couple of years ago, and I thought the intent was to pull that date off from 2012. So we're still doing the research, Daniel, on that. Again, I don't think there's an issue you being in violation from what we're seeing right now. But again, our ordinances right now are conflicting with each other. On one hand, it says you are. On the other hand, it says you're not. So we have to get that deconflicted and figure out what that standard looks like.
So what was the cited violation?
It was, Chief, are you here? It was anybody after, you were grandfathered if you were here 2012 and before. Anybody after 2012 was not grandfathered. And I'll turn it over to Jody.
Yeah, I've been visiting with our code enforcement officer, Donovan Coonrod, quite frequently on this. In fact, we've been a little tied up with some other stuff as well, so we knew we had a little bit of time because he'd asked to be on the next council meeting, but wanted to get some interpretation from our city attorney, because if you look through our ordinance, it basically states that you can, as long as it's not more than 20-some days, I think it is. And then just another paragraph below, it says you can't if it's a use on review. So trying to get some interpretation there. It's very confusing and tough to understand. In fact, I directed Donovan that we're going to hold off on it until we can get it in front of our city attorney and the city administrator and try to get some interpretation of it, so that we can address this correctly instead of just going out there shooting from the hip per se. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Daniel?
Thank you, Daniel.
and I haven't reached out. I probably should have reached out to him, but I haven't had an opportunity. We're dealing through some other ordinances. I know we talked about leading up to the rally. That's one chapter will say one thing, and then you got to go to a whole different chapter to find some others. So we're working through some, making notes of them for our chapter, our ordinance revisions that will be coming forward to hopefully get some clarification and a little more clarity for not only employees but citizens as well.
Sounds like we've got a few of those discrepancies to work out, so. Is there anyone else that has a non-agenda matter that they want to bring before the council? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to department. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Sorry. Good evening. I just wanted to talk about the cups that we sell.
Could you state your name for the people that are
sorry.
online?
I'm Tia Hartwell. Okay. About the cups, for the rally cups, is there a reason why we're not changing them every year? Putting dates on them?
Because we have a lot of cups.
Okay.
We do get some from Budweiser as part of a sponsorship program, and those are dated, but they're a limited amount, so once they're gone, they're gone. And then we go to our storage facility that we have all the undated ones. And yeah, we still have a lot of those left, so we're just trying to get rid of those before
I
they.
just think every year it'd be better for the city to make, instead of people reusing. Does that make sense?
It does, but yeah, all the ones we have are undated, so.
Okay.
If I can maybe speak on the enforcement side of that, that makes it more difficult, changing it every year of us. It's going to encourage us to have more contact with citizens to try to cipher, if it's say 85th, 86th, 81st, Deadwood, Music on Main. So my standard practice, agree or disagree, was been as long as it's an event cup, we don't get too excited as long as they're in the plastic event cups. So because it is tough to walk up and try to engage every citizen who potentially could be in violation, it makes more contact. As long as they're in a plastic cup, from a PD standpoint, we've taken the stance that they're in compliance, if that makes sense. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you for the input, Chief.
Well, just for full transparency, we probably got a decade's worth of cups still that we're working through.
We inherited those, I guess.
Well, I want you to know that we were having wars this year. I don't know where we came up on our sales. I think we sold $4,000 worth.
Did you sell them all?
I did.
I had some that had a few more boxes, so yeah, I didn't really, I mean, I just know what I sold and what I billed out, so.
Okay, well, I'm waiting for that.
Sounds like we got a budding reality show, the cup sales of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Hey, we're trying to make money for the city.
Yeah.
It's a friendly competition.
Appreciate it.
All right, is there anyone else that has a non-agenda matter they'd like to address the council over? Okay, we'll continue on to department updates. 6.1 is our July sales tax report. Administrator Jordan, I think you've got good news for us.
Yeah, good evening. Before I go into the sales tax, I didn't have this on the report, but I just wanted to let everybody in the council know, and also out in the public, obviously we just got done with the rally, and I would tell you I was really, our teammates did a really good job of executing the rally. We are working on an after-action report right now, looking at everything, at least from a staff perspective, the things that we did well and the things that we can improve on. And so we'll be working that over the next couple weeks. Just wanted to let everybody know that we're trying to dot the i's, cross the t's, and make next year even better. Moving on to the sales tax, as you point out, yeah, July was an incredible month. You know, this has been an interesting year. If you look at, we've had 7 reporting periods, and 3 of those reporting periods were really down over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, significantly down. But the other 4 months have been the 4 best months we've ever had. You know, we started off pretty hot in January and February, took a downturn in March and back up in April, and then May and June were both down. But you can see the number, 427,000 collected in July. That's 167% higher than last July. That's about 21% higher than last year, and just over 5% higher than 2023, which was the benchmark. So we're really doing really well on the sales tax. If you look at the bottom right graph, that kind of paints that picture. It gives you a 6-year average of our sales tax collection from January to July, those 7 months. And you can see to the far right, 2025 is about at $1.4 million, which is quite a bit more than the other 6 years. Now, if you go to the next slide, we haven't had the same kind of success with our municipal gross receipt tax, our triple B. And this is more for lodging, eating establishment, alcohol beverages. And that one's been tracking relatively low. We've been above average 3 of those months, and only 1 month back in January was that the best month that we'd had in that reporting period for those 3 years. But the rest of the months we've been tracking down. You can see at the bottom, 188,000 so far collected since through July. Last year we collected 204,000, and year before that it was just under 242,000. So that one continues to trend downwards. Pending your questions, that's all I have for on sales tax.
Do you have any input insight as to why the triple B has not been tracking with the rest of the?
Well, just looking at state information, as I understand, that's been tracking for across the state when you talk about tourism, and even for the United States. I mean, it looks like tourism has been taking a hit. I guess when people are somewhat concerned about, how much money they have and what the costs are. That's my only guess, and that's just listening at the news from the national perspective, and then just doing a little bit of research on where we sit with the city or the state of South Dakota. So we seem to be pretty consistent with the national and state average.
Thank you. Any other questions on the sales tax report? All right. We show there's a motion to approve that report or accept the report. Was that intended?
That was not intended.
Yeah, okay, so we're not gonna. Item 6.2 is the 2026 budget development timeline.
Yeah, this is, looking at the approach that you guys took last year. Obviously, it was later in the year when you initiated that process, but these are looking at the different budgets that we have and how we were kind of looking at dicing this up. Now, this may change because we'll end up doing a lot of the reviews with our department heads down in legal and finance, but for the most part, we should be pretty consistent with this schedule. The intent is that we'll have our first reading on the 6th of October and then followed up with the second reading on the 20th of October. So we have, after the 18th of August, after this meeting, we have 2 regular meetings. And that meeting is on the 15th of September. There's 3 weeks between that second meeting and our first meeting in October. So we took the opportunity to take one of those Mondays and add in a special meeting focused 100% on finishing up our budget hearings with our department heads. Starting off on the 2nd of September, we're real close on having our reconciliation for 2025 done. We're into probably late May or June, and talking with Ann, we should be, coming up here in the next week or 2. By the time we get done with August, we should be reconciled for 2025. The reason we put those particular budgets in on September 2nd, those are budgets that are not tied to personnel. And we need to get that reconciliation to be able to determine, what we're going to do in terms of implementation of the Condrey study, which I'll be talking about here in a few moments, and just have an understanding of what our personnel cost is going to be. because when we start talking about those other departments, a big component of our cost is on personnel. If you look at 2025, 60% of our general funding goes to personnel cost, and about 30% of our enterprise funding goes to personnel cost. So we need to get that nailed down so we can add that into what each of those budgets are going to be going on the 15th and the 29th. Pending your questions.
I've got a couple statements, I guess, if nobody has any questions for Administrator Jordan. The intent is to use the same process that we did last year, where we have every department come have an open discussion, public involvement during a council meeting to talk through their individual budget asks and work through those pieces, compile that together, and hopefully come up with an ordinance that we can look at a first and second reading on to pass. Of course, Aaron mentioned heavily that our reconciliation is forthcoming, but paramount. I mean, we need to completely understand our position for this point in 2025 and how revenue collection has factored in. I mean, our 24 budget, as shown in our reports that we're using for our auditing, is we under-collected our revenue. But we were okay because we had a spending freeze that the former mayor put on in May. So we came out, if my memory's not failing, about $400,000 on the plus side. But nonetheless, we passed a budget for 2025 that had expected revenues, and we need to make sure that we're hitting those marks so that we understand if we've got a fully funded budget or not. And obviously that factors into our 2026 budget. In addition to the budget ordinance that the council is going to have to act on, I think we've got several other actions that the council is going to have to evaluate. One is our brick project. That's an ordinance piece. The process on that is not showing that we are cash flowing that, but maybe there's some creative ways to make that happen. But council would have to take action for us to go a different direction on that, because it is an ordinance. An item that I've been wanting the group to work on, and I hope we see that in the time period where we come through our budget ordinance. We are going to be taking a recommendation for the Municipal Utility Board on what our utility rates are for the coming year. I'm hoping that the MUB and infrastructure can work on evaluating our surcharges. That factors into our reconciliation of funds, so we know where we're at. I mean, we're mandated to make some payments on those loans that we have, but we should be lowering those surcharges as we gain accounts. We've got some new subdivisions, things like that, and I think there's some opportunity to capture some additional payees, if you will, in that haven't been paying those surcharges. So another decision that council's going to have to weigh in on two sides there. I mean, setting the utility rates and evaluating our surcharge position. So hopefully we can work through this. We've got one deadline that is not necessarily discussed in Aaron's plan, and that's what is it, the 29th of September. We will be having to make a decision on the levy, the property tax mill levy that we certify to the Meade County Auditor, and that has to be done on the 1st of October, so that's only a couple days later. So I think that's all I can add to the. Does any counselor have for budget guidance, have an item that is very important or, something that we need to be paying attention to.
I think, obviously, streets, if it's possible. I mean, the money's gotta be there, but, we've got some streets that are in worse shape than others, and I understand the money has to be there to be able to do it. Hopefully it'll be there.
On a sales tax, I show the 1% that's going into our general fund. There's another 1% tax that we receive. And that 1% tax goes into capital improvements and the equipment replacement fund. 9/10 of that 1% goes to capital improvements, a big chunk of it, and then that 1/10 goes to equipment replacement. So in 2024, we received about $1.9 million for capital improvements and about $250,000 for equipment replacement. So we've been using those numbers from because we know that's a known fact. We could look at 2025 and we can project, but it's not a known fact because we've seen what our sales tax has been doing in 2025. But 2024 is a fact. So we've been using 2024 as our planning factor, for capital improvements for 2026. The Infrastructure Advisory Committee will be meeting here at some point in the very near future because they'll need to be part of this process before we get to the capital improvements budget. It would be nice to have some recommendations from that committee on what projects we should prioritize in 2026. So we'll be doing some street projects in 2026, up to about $1.9 million. But we have more projects than we have money when it comes down to what we can execute in 2024. But 1.9, that is quite a bit, and that does give us some opportunities as a council and a community to kind of figure out what we want to prioritize for next year. So absolutely, Councilman Blakeman, that's definitely what we want to be able to
And the
accomplish.
tough thing, I mean, just like everything, it's not cheap. None of these repairs are cheap and probably getting worse.
Some of them, to our advantage, do have some matching or type of funds. And so, my recommendation, we'd want to try to prioritize some of those that would help us get more bang for the buck. And some of those projects are pretty important projects that we want to get down. Like Moose Drive might be, one of those priority potential projects.
Thank you, Jesse. That is a good point. I mean, that's another decision that council will be ratifying is a capital improvement plan for 2026. And
Oh, sorry, go ahead. If you weren't done.
well, I just wanted to add to the statement on there that kind of the outlier for us on that is we still have a capital improvement line of credit that we're obligated to with First Interstate Bank at about $2 million. And so as we work through our process, there's pieces in our legacy that we have to take care of before we can push forward. I do like, Aaron's idea that we operate off of knowns how we've got to this position right now. We know what we collected in '24. We can budget that in and spend it and not be upside down if we see sales tax take a dip or something else. So.
There's no specific thing as far as it's all important, but I agree with Jesse that our street deal is we really need to get some work done on our streets. They're deteriorating pretty bad, so anything we can do there, but they're all important, so.
Anybody have any other comments? All right. Any member of the public got a quick comment? Budget plan, 2026. Okay. Item 6.3 is Condrey and Associates Wage and Compensation Study Report.
Yeah, this is, back when I first got appointed in early January. At that same meeting, you guys also approved the contract with Condrey and Associates to do a wage and compensation study for the city of Sturgis, and that's a good thing. When I was on city council from 21 to 24, we kept on wanting to do some analysis to see how the city of Sturgis compares with other communities, particularly in our region. And we were trying to do that in-house, and the intentions were always good, but we always seemed to get overwhelmed by something else that was going on, and we just weren't able to finish that analysis. Now, Condrey and Associates been around for a while. You probably might have even heard about them just recently in the Black Hills Pioneer. Spearfish has used them for years, and about every 5 years they do another study just to see where they sit in terms of market value and the grades and the steps, which I'll show you on the study. And they just implemented their study here last council meeting. So there's a lot of different communities that have used this particular study. And so the intent was to be able to evaluate, our positions to ensure that we are, at the market rate, that we are competitive within our region. To that end, as soon as I came on board, that was one of the first things that we did over that first 4 weeks, is that we had questionnaires that all the employees completed, and we sent those off to Condrey. So they had these surveys of all our people and all their positions on what their responsibilities were, what their duties were. And then they followed that up, and they did a 50% call to all the employees in Sturgis just to follow up on those particular surveys. And once that was complete, then they sent us a report. And if you go to the next page, continue on. Yep, that's right. Yep. Thanks, Deb. That was the objectives. You can continue on. Next page, please. Just for real quick, if you can zoom out, these are the communities that we compared ourselves against. You can see in South Dakota, Nebraska, Montana, Wyoming. And then there wasn't a lot of ambulance. We're one of the few, and from Condrey's perspective, probably the only community they're aware of that has their own ambulance service. Most of them are associated, with the hospital. We were one of the few ones. So they did contact these other ambulances to get some information so they could provide some comparison. On to the next slide, please. So after we completed those questionnaires and they completed the phone interviews with half of our personnel, they started getting down to business to kind of determine, what those positions, what their job descriptions were, what their duties were, and to determine what grade they would be. And if you look on the left there, to make a determination of what grade those positions would be. End up being, there's a total of 27 different grades, up to 27. And so they looked at those 10 factors, and then based on what the outcome of each of those factors would kind of determine what the grade is. If you go into the next slide. Deb, go up one more. I'll show the picture before I'll come back to this one. Go to the next slide. Continue on. Kind of hard to see there, but just the gist of this, you can see along the left side on the column there, it goes 1 to 27. Those are the different grades that we have. And on the top, they have different steps. If you're familiar with the federal system, the GS system, they have 15 grades and they have 10 steps. And this one, and this is consistent with Spearfish and the other communities that have used Condrey and Associates, we have 27 grades, and then you have those 18 particular steps. This is something that we did because those 18 steps, there wasn't really any guidance on, do you get a step increase every year? Do you get a step increase just based on, what your evaluation is? I sat down and talked with some of our senior staff members and talked with the Teamsters 120, the union representative, who's a pretty interesting, pretty fair gentleman. And we kind of came up with that a career is based on probably around 26 years. And so the first 10 years, if we were to implement it this way, the employees would get a step increase each of their first 10 years of employment. After their 10th year of employment, they would get a step increase every 2 years until they were at 26 years of employment. And at 26 years of employment, you would just be getting your COLAs until you were complete. Now, we can change that. We can make that number lower. We can make that number higher. I just wanted to put that out there, how we came up with that number and how that would work. So Deb, if you go back to the previous slide. Again, there's 27 grades. There's a 50% difference between step 1 and step 18. So if you make $100,000, it would be $150,000 at the very top for that particular grade. Each step from one step to the next is a 2.5 increase. So an employee in their first 10 years would get a step increase of 2.5 on top of whatever the COLA was for that particular year. In the past, our employees have primarily only gotten COLA increases if they stayed in the same position. There are some based on our collective bargaining agreement that do get different step increases, similar to this, but obviously much different. But for the most part, you know, when you're talking about some of your salary personnel, they would only get a COLA increase. I use Rick Bush as an example. He's been the Director of Public Works for a long time, and so he's always, whatever the COLA is what that particular increase would get. And then when you look at other communities that had implemented this kind of stuff, we were always getting roughly the same COLA, but they were also getting, on top of that, getting step increases. Now, how did they determine what your step is? I've talked about the grades. The grades were, again, those 10 factors, and that came up with your particular grade. But then how do you get a step? And you can see the example there. If you make $51,000 and you're a grade 14, step 2 is just under $50,000, and step 3 was at $51,172. So the intent is that the employee would never go backwards. They would either be exactly whatever that step was. In this case, it'd be higher if that person fell in between step 2 and step 3, and so they moved up to step 3. When you look at this, you know, there are some people, just based on getting to the right step, they might have made a $300 increase that year because they were at 51,000, and that particular step was 51,300. So they went up to 50,300. We have some employees that they're right now, probably some of our newer, probably within the last 3 or 4 years, that the wage that we have them right now is well below step 1, what the market value is for that particular grade. So some of those people would see some significant increases once you implemented this compensation plan on Condrey. Now, they tried to adjust for that, and they called it an equity code. If you look at the report, it's essentially a seniority bump. And so, for example, if you had X amount of years as an employee of the city of Sturgis, you would go up 1 step. And if you had another number of years of service, you'd go up a 2nd step. And so those were seniority bumps to be able to reward that experience and time with the city of Sturgis. So those are that got you to the grades and got you to the steps. If you go to the next slide, next one, please. Now, the implementation costs, I didn't put a number up there. I just kind of looked at the end percentages, and this is close. I mean, you can work with this and you can change the number a little bit, but essentially, if we were to put everybody in their right grade, that's going to be, I think, 3.26% increase to the budget from 25 to 26. When we implement the seniority increases for those, that would go up another 2.35%. So if you were to implement this all in 1 year, you'd be sitting at 5.62% increase roughly. So somewhere between 5.5 and 6% interest, or 6% increase from 2025 to implement the Condrey study. One of the things that we have next year that's unique, and I hadn't even heard about this before until I came on as a city administrator, is that, you know, I'm familiar, and I know you are too, that we have 26 pay periods for our employees. And a lot of places do have 26 pay periods. But based on using 26 pay periods, every 11th year you have a 27th pay period. And that 27th pay period occurs in 2026 for the city of Sturgis. and that is a 3.85% increase for that. So if you add those two together, you're close to, just over 9%. I know I've been working a little bit this with the mayor. I mean, there's options to be able to implement the Condra study all at once. We could maybe move everybody halfway in 2026 and then finish the other half in 2027. But again, once we get our reconciliation done, kind of find out where we sit financially, then you'll have more information to make a decision on what you want to do on the implementation of the Condra study. We do have some positions that we would like to fill next year that we have not filled. I know we've had some vacancies, and we have the HR director that's coming in here starting on Monday. We've had the planning director position that's been open. We just didn't have any takers, so we have to re-announce that position. But some other ones that we are looking for is, one is the city attorney. Last year in 2025, for this budget year, we just did kind of a retainer, and you enter into an agreement with Eric Davis to be able to provide legal counsel for the city of Sturgis. But we've also recognized with everything that's been going on, not just from a legal perspective, but just on the day-to-day operations. Just like when Daniel was here talking about the code enforcement, we started looking at that and saw some inconsistencies. It would be nice to have a city attorney that's going to be with us a little bit more often, to be able to, to help us understand what and interpret that and understand maybe what those issues are. So we are looking at bringing on a city attorney in at least a part-time capacity for 2026. So there would be a little bit of cost to that. GIS is something we haven't had for a couple of years. We've been getting support from Meade County, but Meade County has been telling us that here recently that they're just not going to be able to help us. It's not that they don't want to help us. It's just that they're kind of stretched thin also. And they just don't have the capacity to be able to provide the support that we need. And this is something when it comes down to just doing our operations from a planning and development, from public works, having accurate maps is pretty important for us. So that's a capability that we haven't had for a while that we feel that we really do need to have. That third one is IT manager, and you could probably, the mayor can talk this one much better than I can, but from an IT perspective, we've contracted this out for, I can't tell you how long. It's been a long time. I can't even tell you how far back it has gone. He has told us that, he's only going to be able to support us for another maybe a year and a half or so. I think it was 2 years from last time I talked to him, about half a year ago, because he's just based on getting the size of his business and what he can handle. He's just not able to handle a growing city like the city of Sturgis. So we need to come up with a different approach on how we're going to do that. We either contract it out, or one option is to bring an IT manager in here to help us get us up to speed. Because right now there is a lot of vulnerabilities in our system right now in terms of, just from a security perspective. Every time we have a power outage, our systems go down, and it just takes a while to get back up and running. And again, Mr. Mayor, if you want to elaborate any more on that, he has the one with the information. So those are three positions, at least minimum, that we're looking at bringing on. I would say the city attorney and the GS are the priority ones, and that IT manager, if we can, that would be awesome. But that would probably be one we'd have to cut if we had to. Also looking at some cost reductions. We probably will maintain some vacancies through 2026. We'll maintain the FTE requirement, the full-time equivalency. We want to keep that requirement because we know long-term that we want and need that position. We're not losing capability, but we're losing some capacity. And some of those capacities does have an impact, and we can't sustain it for a long time. But to be able to help us through 2026, that would be one option that we can do. We've also removed a couple FTEs, and we never did have 5 people in 2025 in the finance department, but we budgeted for 5 people. And so our intent is in 2026 to maintain at 4, and so we wouldn't have to budget that 5th one in 2026. The ambulance department, when they went to third-party billing, they had some of their employees that was really primarily about billing. And since we're going third-party, The director, Aiden Schillig, has decided that he really doesn't need those full-time positions. What he'll do is he'll add a few more part-time positions to build up his capacity to be able to handle the workload that, you know, he's starting to see that we have. So those are things that we're trying to do to reduce. There's a couple other things we could do on insurance. If you don't have, there's some, yeah, again, bottom line, there's some things we can do maybe on insurance side of it. One thing that we initiated, and this was the mayor's directive and idea, is that we've always in the past had looked at different insurance programs that we can offer the employees of Sturgis. But we've never executed any of that. We've never, if there's been an analysis, and I believe there were analysis in the past, but it was just never communicated to the group on, you know, what those choices were. This year we established a committee of employees to be able to evaluate this. We haven't been able to evaluate anything because we're waiting to get the information. We have three basically options, and those three options we're waiting to get what those costs are going to be for 2026. One option is to say what we have, and I think that's mostly Wellmark, and we work this with Hub, who provides us our insurance. We're also looking at, there's the South Dakota Health Pool, and the Teamsters 120 also have a program too that they have that's pretty cost effective. But just like any program, you have to be able to make sure you're looking at it from an apples perspective. And so we're fortunate that we do have a few folks that work for us that have insurance experiences to be able to help us make this comparison from apples to apples. Right now, we're just waiting to get all the information for 2026 so they can look at that, you know, get that apple-to-apple comparison. We can bring that committee back together, and then that committee could evaluate those and look at it, what's the best value for our employees, and then make a recommendation on what the direction we should go when it comes down to insurance. At the end of the day, we're trying to provide more, you know, maintain a good benefit, but maybe at a lower cost. If you do look at the health insurance, and that does probably not surprise anybody in this room or that's listening, you know, health insurance is pretty expensive. It's expensive for our employees, and it's also expensive for the city of Sturgis for the portion that we pay on it. So we are looking at options on how we can, you know, lighten the load and still provide value for our employees. So again, we don't necessarily have a number on that. We just got a percentage. Once we get the reconciliation done, probably in one of those meetings early on, we'll probably have to make this decision of how we're going to implement the Condrey study. Are we going to do it at 1 year, or are we going to do it over a couple of years? So pending your questions, that's all I have in that report.
So Aaron, you're looking for acknowledgement of the presentation of the Condrey study. I mean, a lot of information there that you shared. But we're going to be working on lots of pieces of that as we go through the entire budget process. So would somebody be willing to motion to acknowledge the presentation of the Condrey study?
I'll motion the acknowledgement.
Second.
Got a first by Nick and a second by Terry to acknowledge the Condrey and Associates wage and compensation study. Is there any discussion on those motions? Motion. Hearing none, those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. All right, that is carried. 6.4, we touched on that earlier tonight, the recodification.
Mr. Mayor, for just a moment while he gets ready, I've neglected one important thing that I think we should acknowledge. Our former city attorney, Mark Marshall, passed away on the 15th of August, and his funeral is this Saturday at Blessed Sacrament Church in Rapid City, 10 o'clock Saturday morning. So just so we acknowledge his position and let everybody know.
Thank you, Jim, for sharing that, and certainly our condolences are with Mark's family.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Eric Davis, City Attorney. Before I talk to you about the recodification, Robin grabbed my August copy of South Dakota Municipalities magazine that I was leafing through before the meeting, and this August 2025 edition, if you've seen it, has a special feature. The elected officials segment has a great overview of municipal government in South Dakota, talks about ordinances, resolutions, open meetings, open records, council meetings, municipal funding, conflicts of interest. If you haven't read it yet, I would highly encourage you to grab it. It's a great primer on just some of the basics that will assist you in your duties. But talking about the recodification of the city ordinances was initiated by the mayor and the council not long after the recent mayoral and city council elections and the change in the form of government. You already know, and we talked about it in the last report, that the city engaged with a highly experienced and qualified firm, that this is what they do to help us with this project. It's called American Legal Publishing. I've worked with them before. You know, one of the things that is going to come out of this recodification and working with American Legal is, you know, if you or a member of the public wants to go look at the ordinances or search the ordinances, you go to the website and you download an enormous PDF and probably Control F your way through the keywords that you are searching for to see if you can find it. And you've probably noticed that different sections of different regulations might be in different places of the code that might not make a lot of sense. One of the great things about hosting with American Legal is they put it into a format that makes a little bit more sense. And in addition, they cross-reference all of these different sections of the code with each other, and they cite to the enabling authority in South Dakota state law. It's just so much more of a user-friendly document. It's more organized, usually shorter. So for sure, that is one major change towards ease of use, openness, transparency that I think we're going to see through this process. One of the first things that American Legal wanted us to do was to send them a copy of our existing code. And they were going to go through that and put that into their own format, and which is what's in this binder here in front of me. It's thick. That's our code in their format. That's all of that in printed on both sides of the paper, so it's lengthy. And then the next thing Legal was a report and editorial research and report that they were going to produce to us, and they needed some time to do that. I don't know if this came from them or if this is something that was just in our head, but we anticipated maybe a 10-page report provided by American Legal's team of attorneys. We've been waiting on that for several weeks. That's where we were at my last update, at the last meeting, or maybe the meeting before that. We did since get that report. It's not 10 pages, it's about 60 pages. So that's the bad news. The good news is that I've read through it all. I've done a cursory review, and I think it appears to me to be all pretty easy and manageable stuff. They're going through kind of line by line, section by section. They have a few questions that they want to ask. They want to know how we want to format things. They've gone through, and there's some references to older codes that have since been repealed, usually things like the 2006 International Building Code that's referenced in code that's since been repealed and adopted by reference somewhere else. A few internal inconsistencies, which I'm sure you've seen and which we've already talked about here in this meeting. There are several. Again, I don't think anything that is going to be too difficult to manage, but you know, I don't want to take this code and I don't want to take this 60-page report. It would be really tempting for us to sit down and dive into it and zoom really far into it. And I promise you, we are going to do that, probably to the point at which you are begging for mercy at some time over the next few months. But the other good news is that we're not going to do that tonight. So just really briefly, what I'd like to do with you tonight is just kind of zoom out pretty far, get kind of an overview of the landscape so we know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and kind of what you might expect. This is a really big project, and it is spurred in part because the council wants to engage in a review of the City of Sturgis ordinances, and it's also happening in part because of the change in form of government that occurred here at the beginning of the year. This is, you know, one of the most amazing things about the American system of government is that, you know, we didn't just create this amazing constitutional Republican form of government back in the American Revolution, but the framers, in all their brilliance, if that wasn't good enough, they took that form of government and kind of fractalized it and sent it downward and said, this is how we are going to organize most governments, states, counties, municipalities, and we in Sturgis are the beneficiaries of that still here today and the stewards of it. So when the ends of government become oppressive, it's the right, according to the framers, of the government to change the people to change their form of government. That's exactly what the citizens of Sturgis did in 2007 when they decided that the executive Article 2 powers of this municipal corporation were going to be vested in a professional city manager with training and experience and qualifications instead of just in a mayor who's elected every 3 years directly accountable to the people. That brought about some changes, some good, maybe some not so good, probably depends on your opinion. Reasonable people can disagree. But the citizens changed that again last year, and we're going back to the way it was. It's an entirely new form of government. It involves big changes. These are not little changes. They're significant changes to the way that the government operates. And now we have inherited a form of government that has since been replaced. And it's going to be our job to reflect the change in form of government. And at the same time, while the hood is up, it makes sense to handle some of the internal inconsistencies in the code, and for the council to take a look at some of the policies and say, do we need all these rules and regulations? Do we need more? Do we need to repeal some? Those are questions for you. But in the meantime, you know, having gone through the report, I've now spent a little bit of time with Aaron. We've had a couple meetings where we're brainstorming. You know, this is a big project, and we can't just go diving in head first and hope that we come out with something that makes sense. It's going to need some strategy. It's going to need some planning. We're going to have to be able to identify the deliverables and a timeline and give the council time to consider and to visit with your constituents and the people that you represent about the laws, the way they are now and the way they should be. So I think Aaron and I have some pretty good ideas, at least the framework of some good ideas about how we might be able to eat this elephant in bites and produce something that makes sense and isn't going to drive you crazy and is going to result in a new code and a new form of government that will outlast all of us in this room. That would certainly be my goal. It's a lofty goal, but the last government lasted 17 years. So far, the American form of government has been going for about 250 years, and it would be nice if we could create something that was, you know, when the kids who are in the high school civics class right now are sitting up there on the dais in your spots, that's still working, that's still faithfully serving the citizens of this community. So that's my goal. I would be honored to help you facilitate that project for as long as you want me around. So I think my suggestion at this point, now that we've gone through it, I think Aaron and I should sit down and visit for a couple more meetings, probably with Kevin too, maybe with council representatives. The council has created this ordinance committee. They haven't met yet, but we've been waiting for some of these processes to occur with American Legal. So I think it's probably time to call the ordinance committee together. I think it would be appropriate to expand some of the conversations that we've had about how we're going to eat this elephant to that committee and start talking, you know, before we go diving into, for example, private camping on properties, which we absolutely need to do, or any of the other key little micro issues within this code, is we need to talk about how the code is going to be organized, how the powers are going to be separated, and then we're going to start digging into ordinances, and we'll pick a way that we can hit, you know, some of the key ones that we're focusing in on, and the sections of the code that are causing us to triage more and more issues. So that's what I would like to do with the ordinance committee, is kind of develop a plan of attack for this in a way that makes the most sense to allow the ordinance committee to do some deliberation, to issue probably a report and recommendation to you about how we want to tackle this project. And so I think that is probably going to be our plan, and that's the extent of the update that I have for you now. Again, this is going to be a council-led project, and these decisions are all going to be up to you, and how we go about that will be up to you, but we want to think about some of the logistics and put that together in a way that's going to allow you to do your jobs the most effectively and efficiently as possible. I'm excited about it. It's a big, daunting project, but it's a really good step and a good legacy for this council. We've got a couple years to get it done, to get it right, and to leave a lasting mark. So I'm happy to answer any of your questions about the recodification process or anything else, and I think the plan will be probably to get the ordinance committee together and be back to you with a report and recommendation on how we want to move forward. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions?
Just one, will probably sound weird. Is this 60-page report something that each of us needs to sit down and read?
Boy, I don't think so. If I was sitting up there with you, I would say, why don't you just give me the Reader's Digest version after you've kind of had a time to go through it? But I'm absolutely happy to share it with any one of you. I'm not sure that it would be a public record subject to inspection and disclosure. We would have to look at that. But if the council wants to take a look at it, I kind of didn't know what we were going to expect from this report, and it wasn't really what I thought. It wasn't, you know, like some sort of editorial analysis of, wow, this is a disaster and it needs to be thrown out. There's lots of great sections of the code that the council may wish to keep. There might be entire sections that we want to repeal and adopt other model codes by reference. There might be little micro changes that we want to make, but absolutely, you all paid for the report, and if you want to see it and help that guide your decision, it'll be made available to you probably through Aaron.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, I think there are a few other things that need to be goals as part of that. One being that throughout all of our ordinances right now, there's fees that are set within those individual ordinances. So if we need to make adjustments to them, we actually have to go through a longer process. I'm hoping that we can model after other communities where we have a single fee schedule, so that not only can a resident look at every single thing that the city charges for on one page, we can address any potential changes through one action on the entire document.
Yeah, I've seen that, an annual municipal fee resolution that goes in front of the council and is changed every year. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So it shows on the agenda item that there's an actual motion on this, but this was more of a report. Do we need to acknowledge this?
I don't need anything.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the work product there, no matter how heavy the load is. Item 7 is the mayor's report. I want to start off thanking the entire city staff for the huge effort, the amazing teamwork, and working together so diligently to do the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Rally 85 went off very, very well. I think it was the best rally ever for a lot of reasons, and a lot of the reasons are because of the dedication of our Sturgis team and the way that they work together. I mean, we had people out of the library doing things they don't normally do. It was truly a team effort, and pretty amazing and definitely appreciated from everybody involved. So we get into the mayor's report. Most of it is just some payroll pieces, new custodians. We got a new change in job for a police officer, seasonal rally staff. We've got our new human resource director coming on, and then we've got some adjustments to the volunteers for the animal shelter. We do that so that they're covered under workman's comp. Any questions on those 7 items, or 5, excuse me? 7.6 is appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board. We had 2 positions, and it would be my recommendation at this point that we, the council approve Rose Beyer as the planning board member. And if the council's in agreement, I'd appreciate a motion to that.
I'll motion for that.
I'll second it.
Tony, I think you won the race there. So first by Alex, a second by Tony, to approve Rose as our new member of the Planning and Zoning Board. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. 7.7 was added through an amendment to our agenda at the beginning of the meeting. That's authorizing the mayor to provide a letter of support to Neighborhood Works Dakota Home Resources, who have assisted 234 Sturgis residents purchasing a home and financed 44 owner-occupied home rehab projects. They are seeking some grant dollars through the state of South Dakota, and they would appreciate letter of support from the city.
You have a motion for that?
I guess I would appreciate a motion, just so, I mean, it recognizes and authorizes that. We'll kind of take a process on that.
Motion in favor of that.
All right, first by
I'll
Alex,
second.
second by Mark to send a letter of support to for Neighborhood Works Dakota Home Resources. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Item 7.8 is actually a letter of support again, this time to Sturgis Outdoor, and we have a representative from that group, actually two, that are going to share with us what Sturgis Outdoor is doing and what the letter of support will provide them.
All right, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Nathan Jolly, and I'm with Sturgis Outdoors Committee. Along with me is Rochelle Brook. She's actually the president of our group. I think it's fair to say that we're the new kids on the block as a committee. We started a conversation a little over a year ago, originally through a cup of coffee at the Sturgis Coffee Company, and then it morphed into some meetings at the chamber with bigger groups of people. And as it went on, we kind of got together as a like-minded group and came up with some thoughts and some ideas and decided to formalize our committee and go into action. So real quick, our mission is very simple. It's promoting your year-round outdoor recreation that inspires exploration, community, and local growth. We want to bring awareness to local residents, the opportunities to get outside and enjoy our unique and diverse outdoor surroundings, as well as help Sturgis become known as a nationally recognized hub for all seasons and adventures for all ages and ability. What it comes down to is we live where people come to vacation. To take the opportunity to promote that, not only locally to increase the value of life for our residents, get the word out, just promote all the options we have just by where we live. To get people out and enjoying what we have to offer right here locally in our community, in our surrounding area, in terms of outdoor recreation. Whether it's trails, fishing, hunting, hiking, skiing, snowshoeing, getting out on the motorcycle trails, side-by-sides, you name it, we want to promote it. Goal number 2 is to promote outdoor recreation as an attraction to visitors, coming to our area as an opportunity to boost our local economy. We feel like if we can get the word out across the region, across the state, and across the country to attract more people to come take advantage of what we get right here at our doorstep every day, from an economic standpoint, it's low-hanging fruit. It brings people to the area. It's healthy to get out with families. It increases your quality of life. And so very simply, we want to use those things that are around us to promote the economy in our area and just improve the quality of life and bring awareness to our residents, all the opportunities there are to get outside and enjoy the outdoors in this beautiful environment that we live in every day. Some of the things that we've done recently, like I said, we're brand new on the block, so we've probably been a formal committee for the last 4 months, but probably about 10 months ago, the airplane took off, took flight, and while we were in the air somewhere, we started building it. So right now, we've supported the Volksmarch. We've taken the Volksmarch over from the Chamber of Commerce. We had our first year, a lot of learning experiences and a lot of good ideas and collaboration to improve that going into next year. We're currently working on educational banners that could be stood up, like a 5-foot banner, maybe in the library or the school lobbies or the lobby of the community center, that just brings awareness. It's just a simple message. What are you doing this weekend? And it's just going to be a list of all the things that we have to offer in our local area, whether it's hiking, biking, skiing, whatever you like to do, fishing to get outside. I think there's 15 things on there that a family or an individual at every level, every capability could get out and take advantage of right here being outside in our local area. We currently are in the middle of our Viewpoint Challenge. What we've done is we've put some markers out on different areas of our trail system. We have like 52 miles of trails that trailhead anywhere out of Sturgis in a few different locations. And it's an opportunity to go out and hike, look at the map, find that where we've marked that spot on the map. They all come with incredible views that only we have to offer here in our area. Take a photo with that, put it on our Facebook site, and we just have just a friendly competition going on to get people out and to explore some different areas right here locally in our community. And then coming up on September 6th, we reached out to the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks Outdoor Campus, invited them to come to Sturgis, offer free of charge to community members. They're going to provide all the equipment and the instruction down at Lions Club Park for like a fly fishing 101 class Saturday morning, September 6th from 9 to 11. Open to anyone that wants to attend, free of charge. And the folks from Outdoor Campus are going to come to our community and put that course on. It's an opportunity if you've never fly fished before, you want to try it, or if you used to fly fish and you got some dusty equipment laying in your garage and you want to dust it off and come down and put it back to work. That's coming up in a couple weeks, and we're advertising that on Facebook and Instagram? Okay, Facebook and Instagram. So just a few things we're working on. We've got some ideas moving forward that we'd really like to get after. So that's just a real quick down and dirty. There's 8 members on our committee, and we get together about once a month and just try to move the ball forward and kind of, like I said, build this plane that's already in flight and improve it every time we get together. Looking to the future, just promoting the jewel that our community really is and the things that it has to offer. So right now, our purpose tonight for you guys is like the mayor said, we're going to go out and seek out and apply for some grant money through the state. I'm going to let Rochelle talk about that because she has more information on that. But we're just simply looking for a letter of support from the Chamber of Commerce or the City Council. We've already got a letter from SEDC, and we're going to seek out a couple additional letters from some other organizations. But tonight we're here to solicit you guys and see if we can get your support. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Rochelle.
Hi, guys. Good evening. Rochelle Brook. A little bit about the grant program. It's through South Dakota Tourism, and it's called Destination Development. So the purpose of this program is to go into rural communities, 30,000 and under of a population, and help them develop a marketing program or a project of some sorts to draw in, to make their community a destination within South Dakota. We obviously feel like Sturgis is a perfect fit. We, have, like Nate had said, low-hanging fruit with our outdoor recreation. And our group is something that wants to push the outdoor recreation into more of a stronghold of an economy for our community. So this would do that. It would award us approximately $15,000. But more than that, South Dakota Tourism would come into our community multiple times from September all the way through September of 25, all the way through 26. I have the dates, but I've lost them. All the way through November or January of 26, and help us and educate us in marketing and how to take this project from our ideas to fruition, and really give us some education and training on the next level that I think is probably the most invaluable out of this grant program. Applications are due in by the end of the month, hence why we're here tonight, and we'll know by September 10th if we're awarded. They will award 2 communities that the grant for the first year. This is the first year they're doing it, and we're just hoping we get a letter of support from you guys so we can get approved for this grant and start moving the needle forward with this group, and really, like Nate had mentioned multiple times, just showcase the gem that is Sturgis and the Black Hills surrounding it.
I have a question. Is our little pond, that's about the only spot for fishing this year, isn't it? I mean, Bear Butte is dried up, and Fort Meade Reservoir, I don't think there's any fish in there, so our little Lions Club spot's about the only little fishing hole in Sturgis, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say in city limits, and
Yeah.
the idea
Has anybody heard anything about Bear Butte, or huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh, it's full now?
They're both filling up with the last rainfalls. They've taken quite the recovery over the last month. That's just me
I
being
see
out
Bear
there.
Butte, I drove by Bear Butte today, and I see it was coming up a little bit, but there's still a long ways to go, so I was just wondering if is there any plans in the future for? Okay.
Bear Butte is full, but I'll say this as an avid outdoors person of Sturgis. We have Dalton Lake, which I was just there today, which is 17 miles out. There's many streams that stream fishing is kind of catching on, not just fly fishing, but regular fishing in the streams as well. There's opportunity, and that's part of the purpose of our group is to really educate not just our community members, but also the nation of what we actually do have. It's not just Lions Club, because we are known for that, but there's many more opportunities.
I just think it's sad. I want to take my grandkids someplace, and I don't have anything place really close that I can take.
I agree. I agree.
Well, Lions Club has some big fish in it, I hear. Anyway, thank you. So is there any further questions or discussion? I mean, I am certainly in favor of providing this letter of support for this group.
Yeah, it's really nice to see.
I'd make a motion to support letter intent.
I'll second it.
Geez, Terry, you got beat out a second time. I've got a first by Mark, a second by Tony to approve sending the letter of support from the city of Sturgis to the state of South Dakota in the name of Sturgis Outdoor. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Item 8 is our consent agenda. Consent agenda is approved as an entire chunk unless we decide to remove an individual item and have it considered separately. Is there anyone from council that wishes to have any item on the consent agenda removed and considered separately? How about members of the public? Is there an item on the consent agenda that they wish to have considered separately? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Got a first by Jim, a second by Alex to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes. Yes.
Those opposed, no. The consent agenda has been approved. Item 9 is approval of the claims. Please note that we do have some changes on the claims this round. We have not had salaries listed previously. And as things would have it, this first round has our rally salaries on it. So you'll see some numbers that reflect the amazing amounts of overtime and effort that were put forward by our different departments. Does anybody have any questions on the claims or any part of the claims package?
I'll move to approve.
Yeah, first by Mark to approve the claims.
I'll say,
Second by Terry. Is there any further discussion on the claims? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Item 10 are public hearings. Our first public hearing, 10.1, is consideration to approve resolution 2025-33 for a street closure for Cool Deadwood Nights. Show and shine.
Sturgis Show and Shine.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I received an application from Jim at Sturgis Photo and Gifts and Patch Stop for this event that's coming up on Wednesday. They would like a street closure on Main Street from 4th to Junction. They've also asked for Harley-Davidson Way, just there between Main and, actually, I think it was from the alleyway over on this side by First Interstate Bank over to Lozelle, and then on 1st and 3rd Street from the alleyways from just on each side of Main Street. So like Rick said, they're going to close it early in the morning, like at 6 a.m. The event will take place from 11 to 2, and they'll have a bunch of cars down there. It sounds like 250 or so. And I think Jim's here if you have any other questions.
Well, this is a great addition to the city of Sturgis for an event that's spilling out of the community of Deadwood. So, I mean, we certainly would like to accommodate them, and it's also a thank you to Jim for taking this on, a Sturgis business owner, bringing forward events in the community and helping to build the community. So hopefully the council finds time to support it, especially since I announced it during announcement and praise.
A motion to approve.
I'll second it.
First by Nick, a second by Tony to approve the resolution 2533 for street closure for Cool Deadwood Nights Sturgis Show and Shine. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. 10.2 is consideration to approve an amended street closure for the 2025 Fall Festival on September 20th, 2025. I think the event's growing and they're looking for a little more space.
Yeah, initially they had asked for the street closure for Harley-Davidson Way just to the drive-through of First Interstate Bank, but they have asked that we extend that all the way to 3rd Street, so they'd like to take another half a block if possible.
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
And a first by Alex, a second by Mark to approve the amended street closure for the 2025 Fall Festival on September 20th. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. 10.3 is a, we've acted on this before, but due to the Department of Revenue pointing out a dependency, we're gonna make another run at it.
This one's on me. I'll take credit. I didn't realize that we had to publish those in the paper. So I had a email from the Department of Revenue, and it has now been published in the paper, but they also required another public hearing for that malt beverage license. So, yeah, so it's now been published. It was published last Saturday, so now we can go ahead with the public hearing to approve.
So nothing has changed in the, from the original piece. It's just revisited this. And please help me with the last name.
Vodka, I believe.
Well, I thought she said it was actually pronounced differently than that, but,
Yeah, and I told her I'd cover it, so I don't think she's here, but
okay, well, it's on you to make
I
that
know,
one.
I'm sorry. And it's the old Back to Nature building out on 14th Street, so.
Right. Anyone willing to motion the retail malt beverage license?
I just got a question. Was Rick was gonna go look at that and everything was checked out? Good, okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A first by Alex, a second by Mark to approve the malt beverage and South Dakota Farm wine license for Elizabeth Vodka. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. All right. 11.1 is the renewal of the 2025-2026 School Resource Officer contract with Meade School District.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For you tonight's the annual contract that we do between the City of Sturgis and Meade County School District, renewing our contract with our school resource officers. For last umpteen years, we've had a school resource officer in the schools. The last 5 years, we've had 2 officers. We have one that is full-time in the high school, and then the other one is full-time between the elementary and the middle school. So this is nothing new. This is a same contract. The only thing changed is the amount's gone up a little bit. The school pays 75%. The City of Sturgis picks up the additional 25%, and they're essentially employees for the schools throughout the school year. We do have the availability on short staffing that we can utilize them for patrol work and help with calls, and they do a phenomenal job. They're building, mentoring, and enforcing laws in the schools. So I would stand by if you have any questions, but I'd recommend authorizing the mayor to sign this contract.
I guess I'd like to point out, Jody, that the 25% we fund is basically for the summer months when they're out of school, right?
That's correct.
And that factors in pretty heavily to our rally presence and efforts as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
With that, I would motion to approve.
Second.
A first by Tony, a second by Mark to approve the school resource officer. Alex, excuse me. Tony and Alex to approve the school resource officer contract for the 2025-2026 year. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. 11.2 is consideration to enter into a professional services agreement with JEO Consulting Group for development of a Safe Streets and Roads for All safety action plan. This is a grant that we received some time back, right?
Correct. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Up for consideration is to enter into a professional service agreement with JEO Consulting Group for the development of a Safe Streets and Roads action plan. If you recall, the city was awarded a Safe Streets grant, planning grant in the amount of $160,000 with $40,000 matching funds from the city. So we had a total of $200,000 as a part of this planning grant. The Safe Streets for All is a program within the Federal Highway Authority or administration that's aimed at eliminating fatal crashes and significantly reducing severe injury crashes related to the city's street and road system. The development and the adoption of this plan will position the city to apply for implementation grants through Q1 of 2026, which basically means is we go in and we do the action plan and address all the issues that they can find, the consultant finds within our road systems that have issues or deemed unsafe, and then we can, in 2026 or a later year, we can actually apply for federal funds to fix those problems that we've identified. There is a lot of money sitting out there that we're able to tap into in doing that, and it's just really a good way that we can do some projects that are needed that we don't have the other means maybe to do near as quickly. So with that, the city of Sturgis did collaborate with the Federal Highway Administration, and we solicited proposals for qualified consultants to develop that action plan. We did receive 6 very qualified RFQs from different consultants. The Infrastructure Committee did meet on July 29th to review those submittals. And we took a look at varying different components. There were six components that we evaluated. 1 was relevant experience. 2 was public participation. 3 was company qualifications. 4 was the understanding and approach of the contract. 5 was contract management, and 6 was the project timeline. With that, the group did feel that JEO Consulting Group was the most qualified candidate and fit our needs, and so we're seeking approval and authorization for either the mayor or the city administrator to enter into that professional service agreement.
Thank you, Rick.
I'll move to approve.
First by Terry to
Second.
approve. Second by Mark. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Eric, do we have a need for executive session tonight? Very good. So that brings us to the end of our active agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
We've got a first by Tony, a second by Alex to adjourn. Those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.